Good afternoon. Welcome to the Father's house of worship. Psalm 96 tells us that we are to come and worship our God in the beauty of His holiness. So it's a blessing and a privilege to be here. Do you know that if you have a fair-sized sunflower seed, blooming, mind you, and if a bumblebee comes and gives it a visit, you can go up and nicely stroke the back. And while you stroke the back, which I did this morning, it'll lift a leg up, either saying, "Hi, how are you?" or "Do it once more and I'll put a harpoon into you." It works every time. Try it. Let me know how it worked out. We just sang about the Lord coming. Not too far in the future. I think we're going to get a little bit political and also speak on prophecy. A lot of good things are happening in the world. And I have a writing by an individual, 10 good points on how to take a democratic country and turn it into a communist. If you watch the news, we'll see what the November election will do. Anyway, of late I've been going back and forth on a number of topics, messages to present, and not quite sure every time which way to go. And I am reminded from Proverbs 3, don't lean to your own understanding. Ask the Lord and He'll direct your steps. We ask Him for guidance, and I do that. I do ask the Lord what would be spiritually profitable for us here at the Parkland Church. Because you see, no matter how long one is converted, the learning process of spirituality is ongoing. When a teacher quits to learn, he or she quits also to grow. So we have to continue to grow, learn, go forward. In tossing these 3 or 4 ideas around, in last week's Bible study, the topic was learning to pray. You think after a while you know how to pray, but it's a good topic. Learning to pray. That was our lesson. And amongst us, we talked about various situations. Then Brother Mark said something. And what he said prompted a thought in my mind. That is what I should speak on today. In the lesson, we covered Christ's parables about being persistent in prayer, to stick with it, to ask God over and over again. Then I made the mention about Moses asking God to go over the River Jordan. And God had said to him, "No, you're not." That was his answer. Then Moses, I guess, asked him a few more times, and then God said to him, "Speak no more to me about this matter." Okay. When we have God's answer, accept it, even if the answer is no. The Apostle Paul 3 times went to God said, could you remove this affliction that I have, whatever it is? It doesn't specify it. The answer was no. My grace is sufficient for you. Somewhere along the line, Mark, like I said, made this mention of not getting an answer from God at all. At times that God seems so far away. I'm not getting through to him. That's how I received what Mark said. So today, brethren, I'm going to speak on when God seems far away. Distant, silent, absence. When it seems that God is hiding his presence from me. To the point in our lives, no matter which way I turn, no matter what I do, I just don't feel God close to me. It doesn't matter whether I pray a lot or pray little or not at all, I don't feel close to him. What's the point in crying out? And then we may start to think that there could be some form of a disconnect in this relationship. We may question ourselves, what could be this disconnect? And then if I do find out what it is, how do I go about fixing it? How do I go about worshiping God when he seems to be galaxies away? The first thing we might ask ourselves comes to mind from Isaiah 59, verses 1 and 2, where it says, your sins have separated you from your God. For now, I'm going to say, when God is distant, when no sin is involved. Well, I can say, or we can say, I'm living a clean life. Spiritually speaking, of course, and physically. Everything seems to be okay in my life. Except God is over there someplace. And he is silent. Could it be that circumstances from time to time will manifest a distance from God? Sometimes when there's a marriage problem, counselors, marriage counselors that sometimes have been married 2 or 3 times, will suggest a trial separation. When it comes to us with God, that is not an object. It's not an object to come to. When God seems far away, is that a unique happening? Is it unique? Is it a unique happening? Or did somebody else years ago, and maybe even in the church, good people, godly people, that have lived amongst us and before us, could they have faced the same experience at times when God seems so far away and not near to me at all? Over the many years, speaking to many of us here and other individuals, brothers and sisters in the church that live like I said, a good life, clean life, we find that from time to time we don't feel so close to God. There's something wrong in this relationship. And I know they have expressed it to me. There is no sin that I can think of. King David had one of the most close relationship with God. He had a true friendship with him. God said for us about King David, Acts 13. Acts 13. God said this about a man that we're not going to get too much into him, just a little bit. Acts 13, and it says this in verse 22. Acts 13, verse 22. And when he had removed him, meaning Saul, God raised up them, then David to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, which shall fulfill a man after my own heart. A bond of love existed between Jehovah Shammah, meaning God is there, his presence is there. And then we ask the question, did King David always sense his presence? One would say no, because of his affair with Bathsheba. I'm not speaking about a transgression and God being distant. King David, was he always on a spiritual high? So much so, when they brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, he's on a high. He dances in the street. Was he always that high? Let's do some reading. Psalm 10. Psalm 10. And we'll look into the writings of this man. Psalm 10 and verse 1. Why standest you afar off, O Lord? Why hide yourself in times of trouble? Psalm 13, just across the page. How long will you forget me, O Lord? Forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? How long shall my enemies be exalted over me? Consider and hear me, O Lord. Lighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. That doesn't sound like he was on a high, spiritual high, that is. We have no date, not in my Bible anyway, when he wrote this. It may have been before his affair with Bathsheba. It may have been after his affair. But then if it was after, it really doesn't count because God forgave him. And then he still says, how long are you going to hide your face from me? Notice 1 Kings 15. 1 Kings 15. Again, speaking of King David. 1 Kings 15. And we are going to read chapter 5. And if I get into the book of Kings instead of Samuel, we'll be better off. 1 Kings 15, verse 5. This is what God has to say. Because David did that which was right in my eyes, says the Lord. and turned not aside from anything that he commanded him all the days of his life, except only in the matter with Uriah and Bathsheba. This man kept himself on the straight and the narrow. Now, like I said, it doesn't say whether this was before or after the fact. But then, like I say, if David was forgiven, he was forgiven. Psalm 44. Psalm 44. Notice what is written here. This is from, the first reading was from King David. Then in Psalm 44, if you notice the heading here, it says to the chief musician for the sons of Korah. Okay? This is for the sons of Korah. There seems to be something here. Let's read this. Verse 22. Yes, for your sake are we killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Awake! Why sleepest you, O Lord? Arise, cast us not off forever. Wherefore, why do you hide your face and forget our affliction and our oppression? We are completely down in the dust. Our belly cleaves to the earth. Arise and help us. That's pretty strong language to ask God, why are you sleeping on the job? Why are you sleeping, God, when we are in dire straits? Notice verse 17 and 18. It says, all this is come upon us, yet we have not forgotten you, neither have we dealt falsely in your covenant. Our heart is not turned backwards, neither have our steps declined from your way. And this is coming upon us. So there was no transgression involved. It tells you right there in these two verses. But the question is, why do you hide your face from us? Psalm 88. There's another psalm written to the sons of Korah. Psalm 88. Notice verse 1. O Lord of my salvation, I have cried day and night before you. That is past tense and present tense. I have cried. Verse 3. My soul is full of trouble, and my life draws near to the grave. Verse 9, I'm going to quote from the New Living Translation. It says there, my eyes are blinded by my tears. Notice verse 13. Verse 13. But unto you have I cried, O Lord, and in the morning shall my prayer intervene. Lord, why cast you off my soul? Why hide your face from me? O Lord, I cried out to you. I will keep pleading day by day, daily, it says. And why do you reject me? Why do you turn your face from me? That's the way the King James Bible has it. Why do you turn your face from me? Again, there is no mention of any wrongdoing. Just one more example. So we had King David, the sons of Korah. One more. Turn with me to the book of Job, right after the book of Esther, and we will look at chapter 23. chapter 23. It's not my intent to go into detail regarding the book itself. I mentioned a few things, and that's about it. Chapter 23, verse 1. And Job answered and said, even today is my complaint bitter. My stroke is heavier than my groaning. Oh, that I may know where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat, the seat of authority. Verses 8. Behold, I go forward. He is not there. And backwards, but I cannot perceive him. On the left hand, where he does work, but I cannot behold him. He hides himself on the right hand, that I cannot see him. He's doing everything right. God is nowhere near. Notice verse 11. My foot has held his steps. His ways have I kept, and not declined. Neither have I gone from your commandments, the commandments of his lips. I have esteemed the words of his mouth more than my necessary food. And I can't find them. There's no sin mentioned. The book of Job, brethren, contains 42 chapters. In 37 of these, God is silent. To get our bearings straight, we need to read a few more scriptures, okay? I'm going to read 2 in the Old Testament and 2 in the New, starting with Deuteronomy 31. This is just so we can get ourselves aligned. Deuteronomy 31 and verse 8. And the Lord, it is he that does go before you. He will be with you. He will not fail you, neither forsake you. So don't fear and do not be dismayed. Psalm 37. Psalm 37. I'll read those words. Notice verse 28. Psalm 37, verse 28. For the Lord loves judgment and forsakes not his saints. That has to register with us. He will not forsake his saints. They are preserved forever. Now look at 2 New Testaments. John 14. John 14 and verse 16. Jesus speaking says, and I will ask the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you. Verse 23. And Jesus answered and said unto him, if a man love me and keep my words, just like all these other individuals kept the words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him or her, and make our dwelling, our abode, our tabernacling with that person. One more. Hebrews 13. Go to the book of Hebrews 13 and notice verse 5. Hebrews 13, verse 5. Let your conduct be without covetousness, and be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. To mature our spirituality, our friendship, in order to do that, to bring us closer to God, God will test us with seemingly periods of separation. This distancing that we read about is all a test of faith. A test that most of us over the years have faced, and if someone hasn't faced it yet, it's coming. It is coming. It's a test because are we going to believe his words? I will never leave or forsake you. That has to come to a test to prove that what is in the heart. Will we believe his words of I will never leave you or forsake you? Or do we or will we let his words fall to the ground? Let his words fall away where we become distant from him. Big difference. Samuel said, or it's written about Samuel, he let none of God's words fall to the ground. You remember the story about the first Ish? The first Ish and Isha, meaning man and woman, okay? They decided to eat fruit off a tree. And then they realized they were both in their birthday suit. So they hid themselves. And you remember what God asked them? Where are you? I'm here. Where are you? I have time. The other day, I fell in love. And they always say, the wife or the husband is the last to know. Well, I fell in love. I went to the nursery and I walked around the trees. And there's this little tree, it's only about knee high. And the branches were like this. That little tree had to come home with me. So once I fell in love with this little tree, I told the guy, don't sell that tree. I'm coming right back with the authority to make sure that we're on the same page, that after 62 years of marriage, I always like to check. And Joni approved that I'm going to buy that tree. I stopped counting on that little tree with 9 branches, 140 apples. 140 apples. It is a rescue crab. It's about the size of a golf ball. But a beautiful tree. And I loved it. And I gave it a name. I called it Ruby Joan. Where was I? On a non-cloudy night, we look into the skies, we can see the clouds. No, sorry. On a non-cloudy night, we can see the stars, okay? So then the clouds roll in, and what happens? You don't see the stars. Did they go away? No, they're still there. Just because we can't see them, We know in our mind's eye. And that is how we must understand Jehovah Shammah. God is there. Period. In times when God seems distant, we must come to the understanding He is there. We must continue to trust Him, obey Him, worship Him, even when we feel we're only going through the motions. But you know what? We cannot rely on our emotions or feelings. God is omnipresence. Omni meaning all, presence. Regardless of how I feel, God's continuous presence is too great for us to compare it to our constantly changing feelings and emotions. We should never doubt in a state of darkness what God tells us through the scriptures, which is light. I asked my friend a couple of days ago, do you ever feel God is distant? Yeah, so distant, yeah. Well, what should you do? Well, he, almost without missing a beat, he said, where two or three are gathered together, Christ promises to be there. Okay? So if you feel alone, go find a friend, a brother, or better yet, come to the Father's house of worship. There is God's presence. When Job's world, you know the story, and if you don't read the book of Job, you know Job's story. His world fell apart. The whole thing went completely haywire for him. And I don't have time, so I'm only going to mention the verse and what it says, okay? Here's what this righteous man said. So I want to reiterate. His 10 children were killed, everything taken away. And in Job 10:12, paraphrasing this, he said, God is very good and loving. That's after the effect. Job 23:10, he says, God notices every detail of my life. Job 23 in verse 14, he says, God has plans for my life on earth and plans for me in the hereafter. In Job 34, in verse 13, he says, God is in total control. And I add, where Jesus said, not one bird falls dead from the sky without him knowing. In Job 42, in verse 2, he says, God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and nothing escapes him. And then, let's turn to the book of Job. Chapter 23. Back, we were there once before, chapter 23. There's one particular verse I didn't want to read at that time. And this is the clincher of what this is all about. When God seems distant. Verse 10. but he knows the way that I take. When he has tried me, when he has tried me. The Hebrew word means to examine, to thoroughly investigate, to search me out into my innermost being. And it also means to be tested as metal is tested in purification. Now, why is that? Notice the rest of the verse. When he has tried me, I shall come forth as gold. There it is. That is the end result. After God has tested us, and we have stayed true and faithful and steadfast, we will come forth as gold. You might say, here is Job's final words, except they're right at the beginning. Job 1. Let's go to Job 1. This is what this man said right at the beginning. Verse 20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle, shaved his head, fell down upon the ground and worshiped, and said, naked came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all of this, Job sinned not. I heard a woman talking the other day, and excuse me, she was paralyzed basically from the neck down. And the conversation came about, she said, God has chosen not to heal me. She said, God has basically chosen to hold me. You see, excuse me. In order to hold someone, you got to be near them, right? That's common sense. In 1936, a 14-year-old girl wrote a poem. Then she misplaced it. 3 years later, she found it. I'm going to ask Faye to come forward. She is, excuse me, she's going to read that poem.
One night I dreamed I was walking along the beach with the Lord. Many scenes from my life flashed across the sky. In each scene, I noticed footprints in the sand. Sometimes there was 2 sets of prints. Other times, there were only 1 set of prints. This bothered me because I noticed that during the low periods of my life, when I was suffering from suffering from anguish. Sorry, guys. Sorrow or defeat. I could see only 1 set of footprints. I said to the Lord, "You promised me, Lord, that if I followed you, you would walk with me always. But I have noticed that during the most trying periods of my life, there's only been one set of footprints in the sand. Why then, why when I needed you most, have you not been there for me?" The Lord replied, "The times when you have seen only one set of footprints, it is when I carried you." By Mary Stevens.
Thank you, Faye. With that in mind, may we all stay close to our God. He is always there.